June, is you ready?
Yes. Okay. This is an open meeting of the Berlin Historical Commission, April 13th at 7 p.m. So we'll have attendance, roll call attendance. Gary,
Here.
Janet,
Here.
and June here, and we have Scott Hawkins also present. We have one set of minutes for March 17th that could be approved. We're lacking, I haven't done minutes for March 30th or April 6th, but we'll get to those the next time. Is there a motion to approve the March 17 minutes or any corrections?
I move we approve them.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Barry,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
and June, aye. Okay, unanimously approved. Good. The next thing on the agenda is the warrant article, the CPA warrant article for the Bullard House. Has everyone seen the final version of that?
Oh,
I did see it.
Okay. Janet, have you seen the final version?
I'm not sure if I have.
Mhm.
You're
Well,
not.
it's, yeah,
You're talking about this
the CPA.
CPA, yeah.
Well,
That's not the
Ins-
one that we've been. That you're not talking about the warrant article.
yes, I am.
Oh, you are. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
The one that we were talking with Tim about. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I did see it. Yes, that one I
Okay.
did see. Mhm.
So we're all okay with that. We have to be okay with that because it's been done.
Very good.
Yeah. But is there any comment about it?
Not right now. I think that, I still think we gotta work a little so that we're ready for the meeting on it. And I think that's the one that we're supposed to have something more in terms of the summary.
Yes, I have to. What I'll do is I'll do my best to write a summary and then
Okay.
I'll send it to you too. And we'll get that figured out. So we
Yeah.
have enough time to be
Well,
satisfied with it.
Yeah, that needs to be done post haste because I think that's supposed to go on the motion sheet.
Okay. Also, there's a coffee talk on the 21st and
Yeah.
that should be ready by then. So that the 21st is next Thursday, not tomorrow, but next week. Okay. Janet, do you want to say anything about preparing for the MPPF grant? I know that we had hoped to connect with Trish Settles, but they had a medical problem, so we have to defer that a bit.
Right. I think she's still planning to connect with us before the end of the month. But Scott, you probably weren't here when we talked about this, but Trish Settles at Central Mass Regional Planning is interested in just talking with me, because I'm probably going to bear the brunt of the writing of this grant, and I haven't done this kind of thing before. And they're interested at Central Mass of supporting all kinds of projects and things around, the region. And this sort of interested them because they felt that perhaps at some level they might be able to give a little support to a novice like me. So that should be happening before the end of the month, that we'll sit down with her and talk.
Good.
And I do have a look. Hang on one sec. Oh, okay. June, I'm going to interrupt here. Tim wants me to ask you if you have found the thumb drive. I don't know what that means.
The thumb drive was given to him last, wait a minute now. Marty delivered the thumb
Well,
drive over the weekend.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all he needed to know, he said. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, so what I did here is I did write up a little thing about the kind of the timeline, a rough, loose timeline for the work that has to be done on the grant, so that we don't want to squeeze the architect at the end of this year of 2022 because we kind of dragged our feet in the beginning. We want him to have plenty, or her to have plenty of time to work on this. So would it be all right if I just read you my notes here, what I put together
Sure.
about how it's progressing? Okay, so
Sure.
I've started with the first step that we have to do, and that is to draft a statement of work for architectural services. And Carl Wickstrom had begun a draft before he resigned, and so that's helpful to me to see what he was doing. It's not complete, but I think it'll help me along. And I've not done this before, as I mentioned, but I've noticed that the templates and the advice that you get online for how to write a statement of work are really pretty good. And so I'm going to forge ahead. Scott, maybe you could tell me if I wanted to get a little support from somebody, maybe even to look it over after I do a draft, who would be good in town on the, that we have in town?
I mean, I think provided she's available, I think Margaret, especially if she's just sort of proofing it and not writing it all from scratch, we probably could find the time to do it.
Yeah.
There's definitely been priority on the select board's part of putting energies into things that help us qualify for federal and state grants to push town projects along. And so now her last day is end of June.
Yeah. I kind of hate to bugger with things right now, but I think, it might be easier just to run it by her.
Right. I was going to say, I don't think there's much to bug her, but to make sure you potentially that you can get on the list of things she's going to try to do between now and the end of June.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I don't think the money from the warrant article, assuming it passes, won't be available till July 1. Is that correct, Barry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right, but I don't know.
No, that doesn't mean that like you couldn't put out an RFP. You can't award it till after July 1, but if it passes, town meeting on May 4th, you could do some work and start collecting responses so that, because the sooner you have them potentially under contract, the less squeezed they are to get everything done by end of year.
Yeah, that's right.
Was there something I saw on the warrant that said that was going to make some of the money in the 100,000 available for the architectural services for it in the 100,000 that was passed before?
Yes.
In the previous 100,000?
Yes.
If that passes, you could spend that right off, I believe.
Yeah.
2021 money.
Yeah. You could start spending that right off.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have to wait for July 1st for that, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. So then the next after the SOW, the commission reviews the draft and comes up with a list of historic architects, which we're continuing to put together now. We have a list started, but if anybody has any good suggestions, we'll just keep adding it to the list. And then following that is the final statement of work after the commission reviews it, is sent to the town procurement officer with a list of recommended contractors to be solicited. And if anybody notices anything that's out of whack here, just tell me. Following that, and now we're getting into later spring, we'll issue a request for proposals in which we'll describe our goals for the project in a brief. You can tell that I'm a beginner here, and explain the scope of the project with the expectation that the architect will help us make decisions and develop the project in more detail. If we felt that all our decisions were already made and all we wanted was to ask for quotes, then we would have done, what's that one called? Our And but I felt, and I was going to ask you guys this, but I felt that we really want the architect to do more than just give us a quote. And so that would make it the RFP instead. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep.
Okay. Then by August 31st, now I wasn't always sure. I had a schedule that Carl had written up, but I think this is actually a schedule from Mass Historical Society, but I didn't have time tonight to look it up and see. But around August 31st, let's say that, the architect will have prepared, oh, wait a minute, proposals. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. Make decisions, yeah. A request for proposals will be due several weeks after we send out the notification of that. And that, I don't know, that seemed like Carl had put about 6 weeks, no, 5 weeks maybe. And not having done this before, I'm hoping that's enough time. But that would kind of match up with what he had put down. Does this make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Then by August 31st, the architect, I believe, is supposed to have the construction documents prepared and submit them to the Mass Historical Commission. So that if I can get moving on this, that would give them maybe, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks to work on the construction documents. Does that seem reasonable? I don't know how fast these
think
people
so.
work. Okay, all right. And then in the fall, fall is more open. There aren't as many deadlines, but in the fall of this year, we work on creating a preservation restriction because we have to have one, and I don't think we do.
No,
And
that's
that
not,
is-
that's not a big problem because those are done pretty standard. That's a document that obligates the town to preserve the building if the state money is going to go into the project, and to do appropriate care of the building over time so that it'll continue to be preserved. And I believe that's a document that we'll prepare, but it'll have to go before the select board and be approved by them, and then recorded with the Registry of Deeds.
Now it says in the directions booklet that it also has to pass in town meeting. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. So, I mean, can we almost assume that we will have a November town meeting? I know it isn't the regular one,
You
but
can never assume, but
never assume.
You never
You
assume,
know.
but there's already a couple things out there that aren't on May that we think might happen in the fall, but there's a chance that none of them come together enough to be a critical mass for a meeting.
Okay. Well, and the other thing is they did say that if you have to go into next year and you don't have a town meeting in time, there's little rigmarole that you can go through so that you can still do it.
I also think that if we haven't had the town meeting in the fall to pass it, I think in that section of the grant, you can talk about how the town has actually passed several warrant articles to approve funds to preserve the building. In other words, that this is not sort of a new thing coming to the town to ask if they want. The town passed to buy the building. The town has passed several articles to fund it. So there's a good chance we read those. One of them might have been worded in a way that covers this already, especially like the purchase of the building.
Yeah,
I have to go back and look at
it.
No?
Yeah.
not really.
Okay. But we could imply some things that, like, again, we still could say it's not going to happen until May of 23,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's likely to pass because of these indicators.
Yeah,
Well, and that
exactly.
combined with the fact that they cut you some slack anyway and say
Right.
that there is a little caveat to having to have it all in by March. Okay, well, that we will hope for that. And because we just obviously can't do it now. Let's see, where did I leave off? Okay, in the fall, also the Mass Historical Society will issue the invitation for all of us to apply for the grant. And then by August 31st, the architect will have prepared construction documents and submitted them to the Mass Historical Commission. The grant application will be due the following next year, March 20, I forget what date it is. I don't think we even know, but
They've not, it doesn't look like they've announced on their website the next round yet, but since it
Yeah.
tends to be an annual thing, it will be, yeah, sort of mid-March.
yes, yeah, yeah. And then the grant application, oh yeah, that's when that will be due. And then September through mid-November is what they write down here. The project bid advertisement period
Mhm.
takes place. So that's when we find out who's going to do the construction. And June 30th is the deadline for completing the,
June
Under-
30th the
under-
following year.
yeah, of 2023. So
No, the project will be completed by June of 2024,
I'm
because they'll
sorry.
award it in March of 23, or
right,
June
well,
of
that's why
23.
they said project bid
Yeah.
advertisement
Right.
period. Oh, okay, of the 30th, the deadline for completing it.
Right, it's
is-
basically a year after they award it.
Okay, so what, oh, so I'm on a different, I had that under 2023. But
Right,
that's
so the
not
current
right.
grant,
It
round
would be
28,
2024.
right, the grant deadline was March of this year for an award in June of this year for completion by June of next year. And
That's
so we figured that you've gone up a year, the application will be due in March of 23, awarding in June of 23 for completion in June of 24.
right.
Good. All right. And so that I thought if I just sort of threw that together so that we'd all have this sense of whether we have to hustle or not. I think right now is when we have to hustle, as much as anything, is to get it started so that we don't back it up to the point that the architect has a week to do his planning or her planning.
Yeah, that's the big thing right now is the fact that we're having our own first run at this, and the fact that we're going to need some help in getting things up to snuff. I'm hopeful that CMRP is going to is going to have had enough experience with these elsewhere, so that they can help us to know what we've got to do and to keep things in line and moving along.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to say that I did have a conversation with Dan Barton this morning. I generalized about our concerns, our structural concerns, and whether or not, all of them were valid. And he seemed to understand that. We left it so that I would send him tomorrow, I would send him the 2 surveys, the National Register document, and anything else, maybe the preservation plan, and anything else you think I should send along. And he will skim those, acknowledge that he's received them from me, and then schedule another phone call for next week. He's working full time, so he's doing us a favor by accepting this request to help us frame what we need to do. And then he's open to meeting with us as a commission, probably by Zoom. He doesn't work much in Harvard anymore. He works a lot remotely from their new Portsmouth, New Hampshire office.
Oh,
So our meeting may have to be a Zoom meeting, or telephonically, however we want to set it up.
that's fine.
But it was very congenial. He was very glad to hear from Berlin people again, and I think that's really the gist of all of it. Just
He
for
can
him.
he can comment usefully on anything we draft as a plan of work and that kind of stuff, and tell us
Yes.
whether we're in the right ballpark on it.
Yes. So I expect to talk to him next week, and whatever input you want to give me, I'll pass along to him.
Okay.
So I'm very glad I got to talk to him because I wanted to
Yes.
explain it to you tonight.
Mhm.
So we accomplished that much anyway. The next thing on the agenda is the threshold replacement at the Bullard House. Let's see, Monday morning, let's see, he's a preservation carpenter like Tim Walhuter is. And he came to the Bullard House, and Barry and I had a chance to, get to know him a little bit. He
Name?
was Ford Ogden. I'm sorry, Ford
Okay.
Ogden. He lives in Lancaster, which is nice. We can have a person close to us. He took a lot of measurements, commented thoroughly about how he would fabricate the threshold, talked about the door, and I think it went pretty well. He's promised me an estimate. He didn't say when, but hopefully it will be pretty soon. And then Margaret has authorized, getting this estimate. And then once we have it, I'll review it with you to then, if it's acceptable, send it to Margaret, and then we could go forward with our threshold replacement. Any questions about that? I liked him very much. He was recommended to us by Pam and Ray Dona, who he did work for them about 10 years ago.
And he was very, he absolutely has exactly the right language and approach to things. He sounds very experienced in doing this kind of work and in understanding how it should be done. I was quite pleased with that.
Good, good.
And maybe if it works well, if it comes to fruition, he might be somebody we'll use for other things in the future.
Yeah, he's done well. He's been in the business quite a while, at least.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's 30 years, but at least 20 anyway. Yeah. Okay. The next thing is the inventory notebooks. That the Ever Present in Newton has completed the project, and I got together with June Poland and gave her the invoice. And I didn't get a chance to check the Historical Commission mail tray, but it may be that check is there for us to actually go to Newton and retrieve the notebooks and pay off the balance. But I'll try to check it tomorrow morning. If it's not there, then she thought it would be there at least by today.
I was in there this morning, and the annual big book of the State Register of Historic Places was there, which I
Oh.
took up to the barn.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, it's not punched, so it won't go in the book. I've got to punch it. That's going to take a while. But it's I didn't pull the tray out. I didn't note that there was more there, but I can't be sure whether it could have been there or not.
Well, she's pretty busy. It may be she didn't get to it, till later. Or
Yeah. Well, it may have been put in this afternoon too. Who knows?
Yeah. And Barry, if you're willing, well, we can have them ship it to us, but if you would like to retrieve it in person, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if that should be doable Thursday or Friday this week, if it's possible, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And
Or after
we'll
Easter.
see how you feel. Maybe next week will be better.
Yeah. Thursday and Friday is a little tough for me because of Holy Week, but
Yeah.
But we could go right after Easter. Maybe not Monday because it's a holiday, but we could go soon after. So the next thing is our assistance to the society with programming, or how we might want to direct some of our ideas to the society. And at the meeting last night, do you think that progressed? Or I know I couldn't go with my little Bullard House sheet, but I have started to think about.
Well, we did actually talk about that subject was mentioned. Janet talked about that last night, and there were some other program ideas, some of which we've heard before, and some, perhaps a couple of which we haven't. But we talked about things to offer to the public. We talked about things to offer to the school. I won't say that any of our ideas are greatly developed at this point, but we did make a little progress with that last night. Yes, this is the Historical Society Board of Directors.
Okay, I did summarize the owners and the occupants and the uses of the Bullard House based on the National Register document, and I had a chance to give Barry a copy of that, because I wanted to make sure that it reflected, you know, any information that he had that really wasn't on the registered document. So that to me was important to have written out. When you follow the narrative in the registered document, it's a narrative, and my summary is I think is a little bit easier to digest. And from that, we'll have an idea of the people that we could talk about and create activities around.
I also have the list from which she developed some of that writing, and I'm going to make copies of that for both of you, and they're available. I mean, that's something we've had for a long time. As I said, this is stuff that we prepared back when she was doing that nomination more than 10 years ago. But we've got those, and I was looking at those yesterday, and as soon as I get copies made, I'll get them to you guys. I don't have them. I don't have the electronic file them now because they're in my ancient computer that I've never retrieved the files out of. So, but I do have I've got them on paper.
Okay.
One thing we didn't talk about last night was, you know, how we would schedule these and when we would like to have. I mean, they're not beginning. You guys have been doing them all along, but if we want to just kind of do them randomly, or if we want to have a certain schedule that people could count on, where there would be something being offered, and whether we even want to figure that out now or not.
I think we should think about it at least.
Yeah, we did talk at that board meeting. We did talk about trying to establish a time in the month, for instance, or times in the month that we might offer stuff. And there's some validity to having a time that people can begin to plan on. So, but we thought we needed to have, we didn't have the full board. We were missing both June and Edith last night. So we didn't really try to create the time itself, but we certainly think it's valid, and it's good for us to be talking about that, though that's not something we've got to do at this meeting.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
We already have the ones that you're doing, June, at 19 Carter. And,
yes,
you know, I know we're not going to discuss when we might want to get together, but my thought is don't start with too many and then find that we just can't keep up. They're getting a little shabby because we're trying to make them up so fast. I'd say start with a little bit fewer, and then I don't know if you're still planning to do the ones that you're doing now.
well, I would, Yeah, I mean, it would be up to the society, but I think I might advocate for integrating a little bit of the History Matters schedule
Mhm,
into whatever schedule they think works
mhm.
for the volunteers that are willing to do this. Some part of that is a selfish consideration on my part, because it's it's something to come up every week with a decent program. And I do, there are, well, yesterday we had Barry come, and we had a wonderful time with discussing, our Yankeeness here in Berlin, but all the traces of other nationalities that came family by family. It was a good session, and people have really enjoyed it. So sometimes I can rely on others to do, the presentation or lead a discussion, which is good, helps me.
It was more of a little bit more formal kind of thing than we usually do there. I don't mean formal, but I mean in terms of it being more of a speaker thing. But we certainly had some participation and discussion, and we certainly went off on tangents as people ask questions too.
Yeah, well, that's the informality part of it. Ed Sterling has given his railroading presentations, and they're very formal. I mean, he has a PowerPoint presentation that's up on the screen, and he takes whatever questions there are, but they usually come at the end. So it's pretty, and those things can be filmed. Brittany asked me if she should film yesterday's presentation, but I said it was informal, and her view is that when a session is informal, people shouldn't be constrained. When they want to make their comments, they shouldn't be worried about the fact that it'll be on cable television. So
yeah.
I think we could have passed the test yesterday, but anyway, it was good, very good. So I guess my bottom line is to integrate it a little bit, if others are willing to do that.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I think you've been admirable to be able to keep up a weekly thing.
Yeah, it's because we had to suspend it for quite a while, so I had a long rest.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to remember when we started it up again. Maybe this winter.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look at my notes. The next.
I will say that if we're going to do the kind of thing we were talking about at the board meeting last night, I think we'll also, not only will we want to pick a time in the month to do it, but we'll also want to pick what months to do it. I think you might not do it all the time, all summer, or you might not do it, you might work on it seasonally based on what people, what we think is the likelihood that people are going to want to participate. Because lots of times in summer, it's less participation or whatever else.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe this year people will get to go on vacation more, and maybe it'll be more likely that they'll be able to travel.
Yeah.
I hope so. The next thing is something I spoke to Scott about, I guess a couple weeks ago, and that was having a work-off person to help us on the commission. Did you get anywhere with that, Scott? Or
I didn't get anywhere with select board. Oh my God, Bob Morrison, who lives here in the community, has been looking for some senior work-off stuff in the town. He's doing some filing right now for a highway, but that's only going to be a few hours for a couple of weeks, and is looking for other stuff. And sort of filing and attention to detail is his strong suit. Relatively independent to work. I don't know if that's something that would, because I know, to do historic filing or record keeping takes also some knowledge of historic stuff that I don't know how much he has. And so I don't know if there is a benefit or not, but if there is, if you have the need and he's interested in doing it, we could then work with Margaret and Victoria to see what the paperwork is to match those up.
Okay, should I reach out to him or?
Oh, we need to define what we want them to do.
Right.
That's the number one thing we have to
Yep.
do, is decide what the tasks are that we would want someone to do, and what conditions might go with that. And then they can begin to figure
Right.
it out based on who's available. And secondly, we might also recruit somebody
Yep.
to
Ourselves.
apply.
Yeah.
To apply, yeah.
Yep.
Well, there are definitely two kinds of tasks that I see that need attention. One is working with the collection, and Barry would have to, I would defer to Barry to figure out, the tasks for that. And the other concern is all the donations and collection items that are in the Bullard house and need to be better organized and protected. That's probably just as daunting as working with collection items and recording them. But we can't keep up. And if we get an interested person, I think they would have a great time working with this material. Okay, is there any other business? I think I've covered everything that has happened this week, at least, and that was, I was really pleased to talk to Ford Ogden about the threshold, and to Dan Barton. Those were, despite my flu and cold, I really was happy that those things happened this week.
Oh, it's wonderful to find out that Dan Barton can be available to us some.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful, because we just have been very uncertain as to how likely that was. And I think Ford Ogden is a great discovery for us. I think he's a good, I think I'm hopeful that could be very fruitful, not only for this job, but perhaps some others upcoming.
Okay. Are there any action items that I should bullet for from this meeting?
June,
I know
I
that-
wanted to bring up another thing.
Okay.
Alexa's talking to me. Oh, Alexa, stop. We don't want her at the meeting. I don't know why it does that. One of the things that I was thinking of was I wanted to tell you that I have still been trying to solicit some new members for our board. I did talk to Sue Henry, who's, of course, has all kinds of talents and is good with weaving and things like that. But she is tied up with something else that they're getting started on and doesn't dare to agree to take on anything else till she sees how much that's going to involve. So I think for now, she's going to decline that. And I was trying to think of others. I've called probably 10 people, well, maybe not 10, but at least 8 people, and they all have good reasons why it isn't the right moment, for them. I think we're doing quite well with our group of 3. I don't think anybody's suffering terribly, but it would be nice to have a little bit larger group. I think 5 is the recommendation.
Yes, 5 is the current size of the board.
Yeah, that's okay. And we're just, but I'm still trying to fill the spots. That's what I wanted to tell you. I haven't given up on that.
Okay.
And I'm always a little hesitant if it's somebody that I really don't know at all, but maybe that's, in a way that's good. I mean, I guess I mentioned you before, James pointed out to me once, you know, you got to bring new people on, otherwise the same 20 people are running the town. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think he's right. And I don't know if you guys feel good about going out and kind of cold turkey asking somebody, but
I'll keep thinking.
yeah.
Is it-
Yeah,
Eddie's
we'll
always
keep
a good-
thinking, and at some point I may chat with you about who you've talked to, just so we know.
Okay, yeah,
So any of the rest of us that come up with some of those same names will know that
Yeah,
they've already
yeah.
been tried.
Right.
So I just soon not talk about them on here because
Yep.
right,
they're not interested. They're not interested. Why
yeah,
why
Yeah.
put it out to the public?
Yeah.
So that's fine.
I wonder if
I-
Victoria would let you put a blurb in like the Council of Aging newsletter.
yeah.
I'm wondering if we should say a word or two about our site visit last week. The commission did a site visit at the Bullard House, and we're reviewing some of the recommendations in the structure surveys, both of those, and just we traipsed around and talked about some of the things in different places in the house and that sort of stuff. I won't say we came to any great conclusions or made any. I mean, we obviously weren't making decisions because it was not a recorded meeting, but we were helping ourselves to come to the same, you know, so all of us were seeing some of the issues, at least with some of the same thoughts. And it may be that we'll decide to have another one shortly too, because we didn't get all the way through those recommendations. But we did work on some of it and looked at some things and tried to get all of us familiar with some aspects of the place and some of the things that have been done.
I reviewed the recording of our March 30th meeting, which was, you know, a few days before we went to the Bullard House, and we agreed that we should better articulate our questions for Dan,
And for Tim.
you know, and for Tim and for ourselves. So that's I'm not sure I can articulate my questions much better than I did when we met on the 30th, but I'll try.
Would you
Well,
like?
one of the
Oh.
things we did definitely talk about was the whole idea of jacking up the whole house, and whether there might be some other things we could open up in the house that would make it so that we could get at the things that we need to get at without jacking up the whole house. That's something I'd like to discuss with Tim a little bit, because Tim Wellheater, because it would be nice if we didn't have to jack the whole place up. That's not going to be a simple task with the nature of that building.
No, and in my conversation with Dan Barton this morning, he did say, you know, it sounded like we might need a civil engineer to help us
Mhm.
make a determination.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When would that take place in the process of all this
Well,
grant writing and this?
it's
and
sort of
that?
a subset of the architectural services.
That's right.
Mhm. So that would be maybe sometime in the summer or late summer or fall that we.
Well, if the select board allows us to use some of the remainder of our mitigation money for this preliminary work with Dan, we might be able to get some civil engineering recommendations.
Would that
We
be
might do it
something that
sooner.
would that be something that the architect that we would bring on? Well, no, because the grant wouldn't be covering that particular thing, so he
Well,
probably.
I think it's perfectly reasonable that it would be part of the architectural services.
Yeah, because
And it would be nice to leverage some of it ahead of time even, because it would help to give the the architect a better idea of what they had to do.
Mhm.
So, and I would say that's something we can discuss with Dan, and it's also something we can discuss with the person from Central Mass
Mhm.
Planning.
Do you want to meet an extra time after I talk to Dan one more time next week?
Sure.
That may be a good idea.
Mhm.
Okay.
Should we, since we're questioning Tim W's, whether he even feels that it's essential to jack it up. I mean, he recommended that in his
Yeah.
latest report, but we haven't really sat down with him and said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is that? And what other alternatives would one use if one didn't jack it up?
It
And
seems
how
to me,
risky is it,
seems to me that the area he seemed to be most interested in that regard was the gallery, and could we tear up the gallery floor rather than raising up the whole house? I mean, would we get to enough of it that way
Mhm.
to,
And maybe
to,
Tim's the person we need to ask first, since that was, he may not be married to the idea. He may just think that would be the ideal thing. Be easier certainly for him to work in that situation. Or
Well, he
not
said
him,
on the-
whoever's going to work.
in the first time around, he said he didn't think we'd do that, but then the second time around, as he found other things, he started to think that way. My thought is if most of that concern is really in one area, could we tear that area up, open that area up and deal with it that way rather than raising up the whole house? Because I think that's going to be open a can of worms, something awful. This building is so pieced together that I think that's going to be a real problem.
June, at one point, we were going to try to set up a meeting with Tim. Would that be some action that we could agree tonight that we should take, or
Yes,
how do we see that?
Yeah, we could certainly, I can certainly send him a message and ask him if he would be willing to. Maybe I would need to pose that question as our main question.
I think we still need to get back and do some more of the site visit
First,
through the rest of all of the stuff before we have a meeting with him.
okay,
So have a visit and then schedule a meeting after that. Is that what you're suggesting? Mhm.
I guess that's what I'd say.
Yeah,
okay.
I think,
Well,
I'd be
we could
curious to,
yeah.
see what he would say.
We could certainly schedule another site visit on Wednesday morning. That leaves out Scott. Scott, do you have a wish to meet with us at the Bullard House? We could.
No, I do it on your schedules, and there are days that I can sometimes get off of work, but even those I don't know more than a week or so ahead. That my job is of a nature that I don't know my schedule too many days in advance. So
yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's put it this way. We tell you if we're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, do you want to schedule a site visit for next Wednesday?
Let me get my little book out here. Wednesday, I'm tied up in the middle of the day.
Okay. I'm thinking daytime is better for a site visit than the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I could probably do, I'm looking at the calendar here. I could probably do another morning. Mornings are better than afternoons.
It looks to me like Friday may be the only day next week. The
Okay.
22nd that I actually, oh no, Monday or Friday.
Well, that's the holiday. I don't know that.
Are
I
we
don't think you're
allowed?
legally allowed to have meetings on Monday,
Okay.
sadly, because I also have that off from work. But
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't know whether as a site visit that would hold, but I know we're not supposed to.
Right.
What's Friday look like to people? Earth Day.
Friday's okay with me.
I think that's all right.
All right.
10
Friday
10
typically is a day I try very hard not to work in Lexington and stay at home. And so if there is a day that I more regularly could make, it will be Fridays.
Okay. So I'll
Something like
schedule,
10
and that's
a.m.
okay with you? Yeah.
Mhm.
So I could schedule a site visit for April 22nd at 10 o'clock.
All
Or
right.
is 10 o'clock still good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I will do that.
And Scott, if you get a better offer on your only day off, we'll understand.
Fridays aren't my day off. Friday's the day I just don't go into Lexington, which if I'm
Oh,
at least in Berlin, the odds that I can get away for even an hour or two is easier than if I'm in Lexington and it's a 45-minute drive.
Oh,
So,
good.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be nice to have you come, but
Yeah.
we would understand.
Okay. So action items for me are to post that meeting, to articulate my questions a little better, think about vacancies, and to arrange to retrieve our inventory notebooks from the Newton Company. I'll see if that check is ready for us, and then I'll let you know, Barry, and
Maybe we could do that. Maybe we could do that Wednesday morning.
yeah, okay. Yeah, that would work. Okay.
And if I could ask on a different topic, just the Historic Commission and the Hearst House and what role I tried to get a direction from the select board about what they think needs to be done, but they want instead of telling people they think the process, they want to hear what the questions are from the other side. I worry language is too long, and I know it's owned by the Historical Society, not the commission, but
Well,
No.
I think that the Historical Society, this is going round and round the bend, and I need to
Right.
talk directly to Margaret and the select board
right,
in regard to whatever the concerns are and trying to figure out what we can do.
Right.
At this point, and I can't say that I'm final on everything there, but I mean, what I'm trying to accomplish is so we can get the thing erected and in place
Mhm.
and then turn it over to the town. And so as far as a long ongoing thing, there shouldn't be an issue.
right,
And I don't see why it's essentially different than a group
Right.
putting up a snack shack on South Commons or some other
Yep.
things. And yeah, we'll have to have a building permit and we'll have to do any other due diligence that's needed
Mhm.
there. And we may very well need to take out an insurance policy on the construction project
Mhm.
for ourselves and include the town as an additional insured.
Yep.
Whether that can take care of it, I mean, we're not talking about putting it there and having the society own it forever or something.
Right.
I think we need to get it so that if it's going to be on the town property, it's going to be part of town ownership.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that the society might not continue to support the matter,
Right.
but I don't want us to be in a situation where it's an ongoing struggle about it.
Right. If I could wave wands, it would be like get the arts and historical, this historic commission and the select board sort of agreeing on this is the vision of what we want done, and then figure out all what needs to do to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think we're pretty close to the same page on that.
Yeah.
But that because I hear like, well, we don't want this is the problem with this and this, and like really, if let's agree that this is where we want to go, and then just figure out how to get them around. If it needs a building permit, if it needs some extra insurance, if it needs a vote of the cemetery commission because you're going to put it on cemetery property, then let's
Cemetery
lay out these.
Cemetery Commission has already made such a vote.
Yes, right.
And
I think at the meeting
think
last night, it seemed like last night at the meeting, there wasn't really much contention about what we were saying. They were saying basically what you guys are saying right now. So
Right.
unless there were some key players absent.
There seems to be some contention at the select board level.
Ah, okay. All right.
They're also, I mean, my thought is that this thing goes and that it goes to the town under the jurisdiction of the Historical Commission.
Mhm.
Like the building, like the Bullard House and the
Mhm.
Curatorial Building and so
Yep.
forth. And I just don't see why that should be a big problem. But I agree, we need to agree what our outcome is to be and what the
Mhm.
sequence of events might be, and then probably we can make it happen fine. I think an awful lot of the problem that's happened is we have a committee that we established for this, all of whom really weren't involved in the thing before,
Right.
and therefore they've got a lot less background for it than we might need. And I mean, one of the issues that I guess it was raised at some point recently, was side yard requirements under zoning. And
Right. Yeah.
at the time that we put the thing in there before,
Mhm.
we did inquire of the Board of Appeals about it, and they got an opinion from town council, a copy of which we have, and which I already
Good.
gave to that committee, but I need to give it to Margaret and to the select board.
Yeah.
That as an educational purpose,
Mhm.
it is exempt of zoning issues.
Good.
And
I-
that might solve some of the things that have been kicking around.
Right.
Some of the thing is, if I only could be involved in these different discussions that we're
Yeah.
having, I could help it a lot.
Yeah, it's because I think that would be my fault, because I asked her, I just started asking at town, just, where are concerns and where things would be needed inside the government. And I did include Hank, the building commissioner, in it, just to get feedback, and not to get prescriptive on anything, but
Yeah.
But good. I think that is good. And just continue to let me know if there's anything I can do. I think, Barry, you're right. Potentially getting you and a couple others on the select board agenda to talk some of this stuff out, I think would be great, moving it forward too. And I don't think it needs to be like a critical, like it has to happen immediately. I know that we're not meeting a select board next week because we're doing the coffee talk. We're probably the next meeting, is we're going to be busy for town annual meeting, and then this town meeting. So, early May after town meeting probably is a good time to schedule it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we can continue to make progress on the project in the
Yep.
meantime.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any other business? Okay,
I don't
can we
think
have,
so at the moment.
no, can we
Move
have
to
a motion,
adjourn?
motion to
Move to
adjourn?
adjourn.
Second,
Okay, all those in favor, Barry,
All right.
Janet,
aye.
and June, I. Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 7:58. That's a record.
Wow.
Okay.